Good morning, this is Mima. On the last program, I had told you that I'd gotten back in church and I was teaching the Sunday school class, which I was ill prepared to do. Um, and even though I love Fred with all my heart and soul, and he had a lot of good qualities, we were still having problems. Um, he wasn't saved and I was still a baby Christian. He would erupt in anger over the least little thing, and he would do what I call showing his butt, and he would just keep on and on and on until he made me cry. And I told him one time, I says, I'm going to start crying at the beginning, and that way we don't have to go through all this. But I want you to know he never hit me, and he never called me any names. He was just angry, and he was so loud that it sounded like he was yelling at me, and that would hurt my feelings. But I got to admit that I thought he was selfish and, had to have his own way, but I got to admit I wanted my own way too. So whenever he'd have a upset like that, he'd try to make me smile, and he'd, tickle me underneath the chin or whatever, trying to make me smile, and I knew that was his way of telling me that he was sorry. So I learned to get over it. But it took me a while. When a volcano erupts, it takes a few minutes for the burn to quit hurting. But I tried to get over it, and that's the way I told him one night, I said, if you had a soft voice, it wouldn't sound so bad. But God taught me a lot of lessons during this time. Now, Fred, later on I will explain to you some of the things that I figured out about Fred, but right now I didn't know anything. So he didn't talk to me, and I like to talk, and so he'd been answering me with yes, no, and I thought, well, I'm going to give him some of his own dose of medicine. So he'd ask me something, and I'd say, yep, no. And we went all the way to Jacksonville one Sunday, and I thought, I'm going to wait and see if he'll talk to me. Well, we drove for 3 hours, and he didn't say a word. So that didn't work. But on the way back, I thought, well, I'm not going to say anything. So for 3 hours on the way back, he didn't say anything. So I decided that I would continue my silent treatment. So that following the next few days, he would ask me something, and I'd say yes, no. So that was the amount of our communication was yes and no. So I was telling my sister all this one night on the telephone, and he picked up the phone downstairs, and I knew it was him. And so I quit talking because I didn't want him to know that I was talking to my sister about our situation. So anyway, when I got off the phone, he said, who were you talking to? And I said, my sister. So I didn't know it, but the next morning, we were going to have dinner with all my family that day. That morning, he used the excuse that he had to see my brother-in-law on business, and he went out to their house early before I ever even got up. And he asked her if that was her that I was talking to on the telephone, and she assured him that it was. And so when she told me that, I thought, the Lord put it on my heart, aren't you ashamed of yourself? Don't you know how suspicious things can be? So when I thought to myself, yeah, I wouldn't want anybody to treat me that way. So when we got back home, I explained to Fred that he had been giving me the silent treatment, and I was just giving him some of his own medicine, and that I was sorry, and so I repented. So one day, I tell you, I was back in the Bible again, and one day I was reading in Luke, and it was in the 14th chapter and the 26th verse, and it says, anyone who comes to me and does not hate his father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. And whoever does not bear his cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. And I thought, well, Lord, I really want to be your disciple, but how in the world can I love you? I can't see you, I can't taste you, smell you. You're not here, and Fred is here. I don't understand how I'm supposed to love you more than I love Fred. So I didn't know that when you became a Christian that Satan was going to become your number one enemy. So it wasn't long. I was working out, and I still had a figure back then. And all of a sudden I began to get attention from somebody. Now, I wasn't flirting with them, but all of a sudden, I started getting attention from somebody, and I really didn't want any attention from anybody because I love my husband, and I didn't want to be tempted by anybody else. So this went on, and he'd make it his business to be up in the coffee room when I was there. He'd come to my desk and ask questions that had no reason that he had to come. It was just an excuse to be there and talk to me. And I got to admit that I enjoyed that attention. But I felt so ashamed. But I was so starved for attention, I couldn't help myself. And so he would jokingly say when he'd see me in the coffee room, why don't you go out with me? And I'd say, yeah, okay, you ask your wife and I'll ask Fred. But I had sense enough to know that if he would cheat on his wife, he would cheat on me. And I wasn't ever tempted to have an affair, but I did like the attention. And I did not know that with every temptation, God would provide a way of escape. And so this is what a lot of people do because we don't know. And so one day he asked me again, he says, well, why won't you go out with me? And I said, because I love the Lord too much. And I walked away thinking, why in the world did I say I love the Lord too much? Why didn't I say I love Fred too much? The Lord said, you didn't love Fred enough, but you loved me enough. So I believe what a revelation that God gave to me. I love God more than I love Fred. I saw it. So God he actually exonerated me by telling me, that this had happened. And but I was so ashamed that I, a Christian, was tempted. I didn't tell anybody. And I certainly wasn't going to tell Fred. And even though he didn't do much for my sagging self-esteem, he was very protective. And with his temper, I didn't know what he might do. So I kept it all to myself. I had to deal with all. Just the only person I could tell about it was the Lord. So for years, I felt really sorry about being tempted from somebody. And I just couldn't believe that I, as a Christian, would do that. And then one day I heard a sermon. It was from James 1:12. And it says, blessed is the man who endures temptation, for when he has been proved, he will receive the crown of life, which the Lord has promised to those that love him. God had exonerated me. Then the preacher said, we can't help temptation coming any more than we can help a bird flying over our head, but we just don't have to let them build a nest. To be honest with you, I didn't really want to share this with y'all because I was so ashamed. But the Lord put it on my heart. He said, there's a whole lot of people that go through this very same thing. And you need to let them know that it is the enemy, that he is the one that comes to kill, steal, and to destroy. Husbands and wives, I'm talking to both of you. We need to see that our mate's emotional needs are met. When men and women work together, we see each other at our very best. We don't know the flaws and the character flaws that people have. And we don't know what negative emotions rule people. But the greatest gift that anyone can ever give you is their love and their trust. So we need to guard this gift with everything that we have. It's one of the greatest treasures in the world. And when you give the devil an inch, he takes a mile. In all my years of being a Christian, I have never heard but 2 sermons on the devil, Satan, our enemy, or his tactics. I learned it on my own from studying the Bible. I know now that according to John 10:10, it's the thief that comes to steal, kill, and to destroy. Jesus said, I've come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. I see now that the devil had come to destroy my marriage, kill my husband's trust in women, and steal the abundant life that God had promised me. I stood at a crossroads on my journey, and I had to make a choice. Thank God he helped me choose the right road. It all boils down to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I trust someone will be blessed by what I've shared and will listen next week when the journey continues. So listen, like, comment, share, and subscribe. It doesn't cost anything.